We discuss AI and its future role in the real estate videography industry with an ex-software engineer from Facebook. Today, on episode 7 of Real Estate Photography Unlocked.
I'm just trying to get mine, but these agents got me losing my mind. Whatever happened to the good times? Man, forget about it. It's showtime. Let me show you how to get some rest, how to make millions, how to be your best. This is shout out to the REPs, to the shooters, producers, and the newbies. Welcome to our podcast. I'm your rep MC. We're here every week talking real estate photography.
Hey everyone, welcome to Real Estate Photography Unlocked, episode 7. We have Alok Gupta here, who is a full stack developer. He's got experience with Facebook. He's an ex-engineer from there and at Snapchat. Really excited to have him here to talk about AI, automatically produced AI from still photos. So it's going to make reels, video reels from your still photos. We're here to ask him a lot of questions all about it. Welcome, Alok. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be on the pod.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to have you here. I think this is going to be a super awesome episode because I don't think I've ever had anyone. I mean, we've had some smart people. We haven't had someone who's been working at a full stack developer of one of the big 5 software companies. So I'm sure there's lots we can learn, and there's going to be lots of people interested in how AI works, how it's going to influence the industry. Is it going to take over our industry? There are some people who are worried about that. I'm going to ask you some questions. Hey, do you think AI is going to replace us? Are you an enemy or are you a friend? So yeah, we're going to get all into that. Would you mind discussing a little bit about who you are, your expertise, what is a full stack developer, and how close are you with Mark Zuckerberg? Are you guys on a first name basis, that sort of thing?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the pod. Quick intro about myself. I think you called it out really well, but yeah, I've been working at a bunch of, technology companies for the last almost decade now across a different variety of roles: product management, front-end engineering, back-end engineering, full stack, distributed systems, AI, machine learning more recently. One of the things that, I've really been trying to do more recently, right, is kind of find a way to combine all these different things that I've learned into kind of one package and, leveraging my just general interest in building things that people want to use, right? Everything I've been doing so far has been a culmination of that. And with AutoReel, really, it's a combination of everything I've been kind of training myself to do for the last 10 years, kind of checking off the boxes. And finally, we're able to really come out the gates and leverage everything I've learned. And it's awesome to see customers loving it so far. Excited to chat more about it today. But overall, happy to kind of get rolling here.
Yeah, awesome to have you here. And just in case anyone's wondering, oh, Jonathan's doing his paid sponsorship or nothing. No. This isn't paid. I just think he's a super interesting person and interesting guest to have on here. When you say you're combining all of the last 10 years of your experience, do you have any of your experience in real estate or real estate photography? Why did you choose to take all of your software experience and put it into real estate?
Yeah, really, it's a combination of things even deeper than that. So starting off at Facebook, I did engineering, but really focused on product management. I was a product manager on the ads platform. So I learned a lot about ads, campaigns, creatives, target demographics. And as a PM, trying to figure out, how do we build things that people use, love, and hopefully, will kind of scale their usage for. Moving on past that, I worked at another company called Rubrik, which was a smaller company that ended up scaling all the way through an IPO. There, I just spent a whole lot of nights and weekends just building systems at scale to, just the most insane scale possible, lots of nights and weekends. So I really developed the most engineering skills there. And then at Snapchat, I worked again on ads and then maps and even stories, where I saw the power of, obviously, them coming out with, their own short form video product, building the way that Snapchatters build and share content and seeing how important it is and pervasive it is, not just in the States, but globally, rest of the world, as they like to call it. And then real estate wise, it's been a passion of mine as well, kind of growing up in the Bay Area. It's been something that my family has been doing. So I was privileged in that way to kind of sit shotgun or passenger seat, learn more. And then when I got started with my tech career, I put pretty much every penny I had into real estate in the first, 5 to 7 years. And so through that, that's how I built obviously a network, but also spent a lot of time with realtors, understanding the ins and outs and, why they do what they do, how they do it, what does the process look like, at least at a high level. I know there's a lot more that goes on than meets the eye, but at least, there's a lot that I was able to pick up and learn through, the years I've spent in real estate. And then real estate media is really combining my interest and passion and kind of hobby for real estate with my experience and background working at these social media companies, essentially.
Okay, awesome. So do you have any experience in video or anything else like that? Because obviously working in real estate, that helps a lot. Being an investor in real estate helps a lot. But I've always wondered, do you just start building models and feeding the model information, and that's how it starts getting you good video? Or do you have one of your partners or a creative partner of some kind or advisor that helps really get the images? In fact, if you could, the reason I ask that is because the AI doesn't look bad at all. I know that we've seen examples of AI, and some of the AI is a lot worse than others. Yours is really quality. So if you could show us an example here, I would love to show everybody what it's like so we can see what we're dealing with.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and add that large screen here.
Absolutely. So let me go to a project that I was working on, pretty recently. Now, note that this was all put together just with a few photos and a couple clicks.
Okay. Case. Now, for a lot of us real estate videographers who are looking at this, some of you guys are going to be thinking, okay, that has a use. It's very easy. A lot of real estate agents who want a simple solution, maybe they want a cheaper option, that'll solve. But a lot of us are also thinking like, that's nothing I have to worry about because that doesn't even come close to some of the high production stuff that I'm capable of. How in the world do you guys take a two-dimensional photo and turn it into a 3D model there? Can you explain how it's even possible? It looks like your mic is muted there.
I'm muted. Yeah. So let me break it down into a way that we can kind of talk through in a more clear and easy way here, right? So it's no surprise, right? AI, Gen AI, large language models, transformers, they're taking over the world, right? So the way that we are kind of leveraging some of these newer technologies, really it's a hybrid system that essentially combines some of the established large language models that you can kind of think of and imagine, right? Llama, Gemini, OpenAI has a bunch and there's others. And then what we have done is basically added our own proprietary models on top of that are built specifically for real estate use cases. And that's why you see the range of quality in videos that maybe some other people are able to create. They'll only do it with one image. The quality may not be as good. They may have, hallucination and fabrication, things like that, as well as other glitches, some of which are kind of universal to all. But a lot of them are just really limited the capabilities because ours is homegrown and built specifically for real estate. And I think right now everyone is going for the generalist AI platform approach, and we are really dialing it in for a very specific use case, industry and customer base here. And the way our system works, as I mentioned, it's a hybrid system using some of the off-the-shelf large language models as well as our own homegrown models to really combine it. And it works in a few stages, right? First, we have some models that basically analyze spatial relationships and architectural elements in the photos, identifies subjects within the photos to make sure we're kind of panning and tilting towards the right thing and not just, a wall or a dud. And then after that, we have another pass through where the models then orchestrate some of the cinematography aspects, right? What does it look like for a scene or video to be looking at cinema quality? What does it look like for a drone to be flying through a scene? And so we've done a lot of training to kind of teach it what that looks like and how to make it work, as we aim towards the subjects and the different scenes. And then what we've done is develop specialized components for just different property types, but use cases. So you saw in the example that I just shared, we had the aerial. So that uses a particular, approach to support aerial images, whereas there's other types of images such as, fireplaces that also uses, different components and models that we've kind of put together. And again, some are off the shelf and then some are kind of, custom tuned by us. And really what's unique about our approach is the way we've, build a hybrid system and the orchestration around it. So a lot of it is first just detecting the type of scene, the types of photos, the types of homes, if it's just, outside scenery, an aerial shot or inside, but even things as in depth of, photos or homes that are low light, low quality, we're able to upscale and make those look better than before, upscale the contrast where needed, and things like that. And then finally, handling the creative aspects. So the way that the camera tilts and pans and zooms and goes in and out, as well as the spatial consistency around it to keep it consistent and deterministic every time you run the model against an image. And so essentially the proprietary models, helps make sure that everyone stays true to real estate and real estate visualization best practices. The biggest challenge is how do you prevent hallucinations? How do you prevent things from, showing up that are unintended? And admittedly, there's still small hiccups and things that happen. It's a natural byproduct, but we've gotten, really good to the point where we've got a very high level of accuracy in the way that we've been able to dial it in. And that's how we've kind of combined this hybrid approach across, the different models as well as our own homegrown ML systems.
And you have mentioned hallucination a few times there. Can you explain what a hallucination is inside AI?
Yeah, so hallucination is this concept in AI where basically the models, and AI engines will basically make up or fabricate things that don't exist. This isn't just images or videos, it's even text as well. And that's why a lot of people are really scared or nervous about the content that they're using and feeding from, things like ChatGPT, where people are blindly copy pasting that, using it for things like blog posts and homework. And the dangers are a lot of those are fabricated and just not real, even though they seem that way. And that exists across different use cases, across different types of, content, whether it's text, images, and video. And it's something that's, a huge challenge here as well.
All right. So how long does it take? Is this a fully automated thing where you can have the model, you submit, like upload 10 photos and you select a 30-second video and you press generate and it does it automatically on its own? Or is this something where you have to dive in and you select, all right, for this photo, I want to use this model. For this photo, I want to use this model. I want to use this music. And then before you know it, are you actually editing? You might as well edit a real video. So where is the balance there?
Yeah, no, exactly. Really, the biggest thing that we wanted to build for was minimizing the number of clicks that we can minimize to create these videos, because we don't want to compete with Final Cut Pro. We don't want to compete with iMovie, CapCut, or all these other editors. We just want the simplest, lightest, fastest way to create the highest video that's possible. And I used to be a YouTuber actually 15 years ago. So I've gone through the process of Final Cut Pro, iMovie, editing on, old laptops, and the number of hours of post-production it takes, as well as gotten really a lot of feedback from realtors in my network and even the broker that helped me get this apartment in New York, where they were like, oh, look, I'm just so busy. I don't have time to, sit and create these videos, right? And it's not create it, but actually edit and do the post-production, upload at the right time, the right schedule for my demographics. So we wanted to basically reduce, at least 90% of the friction and dial down all the decisions that they have to make. So it's as few clicks and as few amount of time as possible. So to answer your question, all automatic generally takes anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes to create the video, just depending on how many images were selected, and sometimes also just server load as well if there's a lot of people using it at the same time, because we're generating these videos and rendering them all in parallel.
And when you say 8 to 12 minutes, that's us clicking a button and walking away, or is that 8 to 12 minutes of actual work?
Both. So you click you click generate video or create video. You can walk away, and then our computers in the cloud are basically working and processing and kind of stitching together some of these models to create it. So you can walk away and come back, and then it'll email you when the video is ready. And that's something we're trying to reduce as well. How can we bring that down to 30 seconds or 1 minute? Because me knowing a product, like as a product manager, the more time that someone spends is the more time they're going to spend going away and leaving your product. And once they do that, you've almost lost a customer, and then you have to try to nudge them back onto the product. Right. So
yeah, I
know. We're keeping an eye towards.
Yeah, tell me about that. I just launched a software myself last month, scheduling software, and man, I think it's great. It is great. It's going super smoothly. But if we have the smallest bug, the slightest hiccup, people will just abandon the whole idea, even if they were super committed to it. So I understand that. So that being said, how reliable is AutoReel? Is this something where we're going to have to generate a video 2 or 3 times before we actually get one that we like? Um, is it going to generate, like you were saying, hallucinations every once in a while where we have to fix that? And also, are we able to edit these and make revisions by, for example, adding instructions into the prompt if there is one? Can you give us more information on that?
Yeah, great question. So generally, reliability has been quite excellent. Typically, over 90% of videos we're creating are able to generate a result that our users are happy with. Now, of course, there's a balance of managing expectations on both sides, but that's something we've seen. Obviously, there's some folks who will want maybe multiple scenes to be shown across different videos, or for the same home, they might create a few different videos if they want to do a coming soon versus just listed versus sold. But typically we're seeing very high rates of reliability. But that said, to your point, there are some use cases where folks don't like maybe the way the drone is panning. They want it to go left rather than right, and so forth. And so in those cases, we're absolutely seeing people redo the videos. And that actually answers your other question, right? Do you support edits today? It's on the roadmap, but today we just wanted to create essentially 3 clicks to create a video.
Right.
But given the feedback we've gotten, and also the technical challenges of us having to compute and create these videos, we need to come up with a creative way to edit these videos that allows for the most efficient way to recreate it without having to actually recreate the whole video and cost another 10 to 12 minutes, as well as the actual compute costs, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I get
Right,
what you're saying completely. If I were going to be using this, it would be for a very specific product where, a client wants to save some money from a real video, but they want to check the box like, oh, I provided a video.
Exactly.
Right. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be, world class where people are just blown away. It's more so, hey, just so you know, the home is available. Ask me some questions about it, right? So, all right, and if that's going to be the case, we as photographers are going to be able to want to spend as little time on it as possible. So we already have virtual products that we do that fit the bill here. This would include virtual staging, where we'll take photos of a vacant home, and then we'll either generate fake staging, furniture to make the house look a little bit more inviting, or we'll do virtual twilight conversions where we take a home that's taken, a photograph that's has daylight photos and convert it over to a twilight photo. And it doesn't look as real as an actual twilight shot, but people don't seem to mind it. So, it fills a little option there where we can make a little bit more money. Can it do landscape? Well, I guess we just watched a landscape video. It says auto reel, but you can do landscape or reel. Is that correct?
Exactly. So we first launched with support for the landscape, videos. That's kind of the bread and butter use case. And then over time, we built out vertical because we just noticed that for a lot of folks who want, to create these videos, it's for short form media and social media. And so these short form videos are typically in vertical format, not landscape. Mm-hmm. Now, that said, there's some challenges around how do we educate people on best practices, because we still see a lot of people, throwing in landscape photos and then, requesting a vertical video and then being surprised when there's black boxes on the top and bottom. But again, we can't fabricate things. I don't want to make assumptions. So we're taking the easiest kind of approach, which is here's the video that you requested. It's in the vertical format. And in Reels, a lot of people do post those. So it's a use case that is supported. And when we tried the other way, which was let's just zoom in, given a landscape photo, we got feedback there as well saying that was also not acceptable. They want the whole kind of image there and not being cut off. So, later we might offer both options, but right now we've kept it very, simple and just support, what you put in is what you get out, right?
Okay. So what's your pricing for all of these? This we can click a button, walk away, get a 15-second, 30-second, 45-second video. What is your pricing looking at? Because sometimes people will generate some pretty good AI stuff, and then they'll just crank up the price as high as the market will allow. So are you one of those guys, or are you pretty fair?
No, for us, we really want to democratize access to this for all of the folks in real estate media, as well as the real estate agents who don't have the ability to, spend over $1,000, for example, for videography. So we want to keep this really fair. We basically take a look at essentially, what the standard market rate is, but also what our compute costs are. And we understand that, for users, sometimes they may want 2, 3, 4 videos for a given listing. And if we're charging, let's say $200 for a video, you're almost at the same price as a regular,
Right.
videography kind of package anyways. So we want to have it be really efficient and scalable so people can make a bunch of these and also, have this be a complementary package for clients and deliveries that they want to do. And so the pricing model today, it's free to get started. It's basically, the free version allows you to create 2 videos with a watermark just so you can kind of get a taste and see it. Sometimes it takes a little bit to see it to believe it. And we'll see users who don't believe it, they try it out and they kind of upgrade immediately to the paid plan to get the non-watermarked version so they
Right.
can share it with their clients. And that's the first kind of paid plan we have, the essential plan, which is $49 for 3 videos. So roughly 15 bucks, per video. And then we have growth, which is typically what we'll see kind of individual photographers, folks starting out, or realtors, essentially, which gives them 10 videos for $99, so about 10 bucks a pop.
Okay.
And then every video on top is $10 from there onwards. It's kind of sky's the limit after that.
Okay.
And then the last one is enterprise, which is poorly named. Really, that should be maybe growth or scale or small teams, essentially, which is 30 videos a month. And that comes out to about $7 per video for $200. And then every video on top is $7. But given the feedback we've gotten, as well as some of our own investments that we're making in this, and us wanting to be generous with our pilot program users, as we only came out with this in the last 4 or 5 months, we were being, very cost conscious and efficient. But we will be kind of raising the prices just a little bit, maybe 20%, due to the additional costs that we're putting in to kind of make the product and support it as well as we grow the team.
Yeah, and I will say my initial reaction to that is that's a very fair price. I think that's a very fair price to ask for. I know we usually do $10 to $20 per image. If we're getting a home staged, to do a twilight conversion, it can be anywhere between $10 and $20. So you are coming right in at the $10 to $20 mark for virtual editing, which seems to be where the other industries already are. So it seems like you're coming in right accurately there. I don't feel like you're trying to take advantage of everybody. So good on you for doing that. Of course, you guys can all have your own opinions. Feel free to comment down below on everything you've heard so far. So we've talked about pricing. We've talked about how it's all produced. Let's talk about some of the more exciting topics. And this is, where some people are going to be very opinionative. I'd like you guys to just, try to keep things positive. We're here to learn, and not everyone's going to agree on everything, but there's going to be some big questions that people feel strongly about. One of those is going to be something that's a little bit more specific to our industry. So you're wanting to do business with photographers and real estate agents. Inevitably, there may be some conflict there because a real estate agent may be creating videos with our photos, and some photographers are not going to want their images fiddled with or manipulated with. So their agents are going to they do this all the time where they don't understand image rights, and this is just going to be another service that they don't understand with. How are you guys handling image rights with images that are submitted to your AI tool?
Yeah, great question. And something we're definitely seeing an increasing amount right now as our usage and adoption grows here. There's a few things that we're kind of, doing to address this, right? First and foremost, we've tried to basically prevent, on the back end when we compute, the generation of these videos, we'll prevent, photos that have watermarks on them to be generated, and they'll be essentially skipped because we just make the assumption that if there's a watermark, someone owns it already. It's not the real raw photo, and so it may not be compliant, and so we just prefer to be safe and we skip it. The second thing is, a lot of the folks now, we started with realtors, but really we've started focusing more on the real estate media use cases because they're the ones who need this even more than the realtors to serve their list of clientele. And a lot of those real estate media folks, photographers and videographers, they have their own raw organic photos, as I just called out, and so they upload photos that they've taken already that are on their drive. It's not like the listings are live. And so through that, we can ensure that they own the rights to it. And also, I will say it's in our terms of service that, we basically don't hold ourselves liable to, any of the challenges that may come up with the ownership of any assets on the platform. So when you sign up and use AutoReel, you are accepting and admitting of the fact that all assets that are put in and that come out of it are owned by you. So the videos that come out of it also owned by you, and the photos and music also owned by you, because we can't take any liability for any of those, as well as, profile photos and branding, images as well are all, liable for the user and not on AutoReel.
Okay, and yeah, that does work technically, and that's just going to fall on us, real estate folks, because we do a really bad job of this, in my opinion. But we do not educate our clients, and when it does come to explaining image rights and educating clients on that, generally we break like dried spaghetti. You guys fold like a folding chair rather than taking a little bit of an awkward conversation that you could rehearse and practice and make it not awkward. So guys, try to practice your copyright and licensing education conversations with your real estate agents. Try to keep them informed on how that works, and make sure your licensing is in your terms, which is why it's important to have agreements that they sign. I know some people teach, oh, you don't need agreements. You definitely need agreements, and especially as the world becomes more advanced and technology expands, the more agreements you need and more clarification you need in your terms. So make sure you guys take care of that. What happens? Do you guys share some of your images and sell those on the back end to third party, like language models or larger models, image models, anything like that?
No, so we don't use or share any of the photos or assets, whether it's the photos for the real estate, profile photo, headshots, brokerage photos, music. None of that is shared externally. Essentially, we're using, for the training data, images that have been already publicly accessible, royalty free, and we're licensed the permission to do and use those for training data. And then, of course, a lot of it is also abstracted away by some of the LLM products that we're kind of grabbing off the shelf that have some of those capabilities built in as well, because they've indexed the whole, worldwide web.
And I would love to ask you this question, because this is a big question in the industry, and this doesn't really apply to AutoReel. It applies to the general industry as a whole of software and everything else. Is it fairly common? And I know that we've been dealing with this as photographers with Adobe, YouTube, and everything else. A lot of these larger softwares are using our information, and they've been changing their terms to borrow our images to train their models. And we're not exactly sure if when we're agreeing to those terms, is this just an agreement so that they can remove liability from themselves? Or is there a pretty large market and economy for images that photographers are submitting to software like this, or Adobe, Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere, DaVinci, all of these things? Do you know anything about that? Can you speak to it at all? Because I would love to get some inside information.
Yeah, no, great question. Look, admittedly, the way that Adobe and some of these other larger enterprises are, creating and using some of those training data for their, models and corpuses. I mean, look at the amount of data and photos and images and videos that they processed, right? And also look how long their terms of service are. Does anyone actually read through that, right?
Right.
And so, admittedly, they probably come out and say externally everything that they use for training data is, they have the rights to do so, and it's obviously safe. But that's really a gray area that none of us can give an answer to unless we're actually there. And even then, I'm sure that information is held to a smaller group of individuals within Adobe and some of these other companies. So unfortunately, that's just not something that I can speak towards. Obviously, I hope that they're using all of the assets and photos and data that they get in a legally compliant way. But as we're seeing with some of these AI companies, OpenAI and so forth, I think there's a lot of questions that come up. That said, it's not just photos, but it's also text as well. And the platforms that provide valuable training data, you can see just the valuation of the businesses rise, right? If you look at Reddit, right? Reddit is in fact one of the best corpuses for data for text, because it's raw, organic text content that real people around the world are using. And now all these other platforms are flocking for Reddit's data. And you can see that reflected in their stock price, which is tripled or quadrupled, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting thing to kind of think about, right? Same with Twitter as well,
right?
Grok that they've launched.
And you see a lot of, man, this is such an interesting, super interesting conversation, because a lot of people's trust of software has gone down over the recent years, because we have seen indeed that when we give software and executives at some of these software um, a little bit of room to do things with information, they do things that we don't like. In fact, they do things that we really hate. This is anywhere from Facebook selling our information wide, and some of the quotes that have come back. I know that you and him, okay, you guys may have never even met, but you guys work there, so the joke is you guys are close friends, right? But it seemed, I'm not even sure if these quotes are true or if they're just rumors that were spread. But he would say something like, yeah, these guys are signing all of their information towards me, and they trust me. What idiots, or something like that. And so I'm not sure if that information was true or if that was just rumors, like I said. And then more recently, we have the Twitter files being released during all the politics. I'm not going to, go one side or one way or the other. When those initial Twitter files came out, everyone said they were a bunch of junk, and then they ended up being legitimate. And then we ended up finding out that various administrations, and it wasn't one side or the other. It's whoever happens to be in power are influencing not only correspondence in these softwares, but also using the data in it. So it does seem like if we give software a little bit of free reign, we as the users ended up getting burned for that. Now, we have made it very clear AutoReel isn't a transgressor here. All right, so you guys are pretty. You're not selling and dealing our images out in back alleys or anything. But I am curious to know, like, is anyone worried about that in the software industry, or is it more so in the software industry? People are like, a few people get caught, but most people don't. So we're just going to proceed, and the odds of anyone finding out is low. So let's just, continue on our way. What's the ethic behind there?
Yeah, I think to your point, I think people used to pass it off much more, simply, especially when these CEOs were probably, 5, 10 years younger. They were just kind of in their, you know, 20s or so. Snapchat CEO Evan Spiegel has said and done a lot of things as well, if you look that up. But I think a lot of it, just due to all the different lawsuits and situations that have come up, have risen to become real kind of ethical issues. And you can see people being truly affected by, some of the decisions and actions that these, companies are doing. And so a lot of this is, everyone kind of evolving and maturing, but admittedly, the ones that are at the front and center of the limelight, who are kind of going through some of the heat, are the ones that are kind of telling the rest of us small fish that this is not something to be messing around with. And for us, the only way the data is actually meaningful is when you have, hundreds of millions or billions of kind of data points, text or photos,
Right.
and we're not doing anything close to that scale. So the amount of volume that we're even getting and processing it's not even a drop in the pond compared to what these bigger players are kind of experiencing, and what they're storing and hoping is stored securely and not being used for any training data.
Okay, cool. So yeah, and I'm sorry to go down that road, but it is definitely something that's super current and interesting, because we're seeing a lot of shifting right now in the real world, whether it be political, cultural, lots of stuff going on. And you guys may think some things are good things or bad things, but I am happy. One thing I am happy to see is it seems like the general populace of the common man is starting to stand up for themselves a little bit more. And I am happy to see that, because that is definitely good for everybody, including the world. So don't be afraid, guys, to question terms and research things and do your due diligence, because there's nothing better than an informed consumer. And that's what we're trying to do here. So yeah, AutoReel sounds like it's super legitimate. Seems like you have a great, honest endeavor here. There's a great use for it. Do you think, answering once again some questions that people are going to have, some concerns, do you think this is ever going to replace video on on a grander scale, like true cinematic video? Are these models going to get so good? Because right now, it serves a lower budget purpose where people are checking the box. Inevitably, some people insist that in a few more years, the AI models are just going to take over and surpass us humans, us peasant mortals, and take over, in some type of Terminator 2 post-apocalyptic world. And it can get very strange. If you guys have your tinfoil hats, feel free to put those on. I don't have one personally, but maybe you do. Do you see this replacing video, where people can just upload photos and not even have to hire a videographer anymore? And if it does happen, how long is it going to take? Is it going to be, a few years? Is it never going to happen, or it might take 100 years?
Yeah, no, great question. I think to answer your question in the short to medium term, I don't think it's going to happen. I think the ones that are early adopters and are smart about it are using this to augment what they do in their daily lives, whether it's personal or whether it's business. I don't think it's taking over. It's really accelerating and augmenting and supplementing what you already do while saving you time. I think, the greater questions arise around, what does it look like, maybe 10, 20 years in the future? And I think some of these ethical dilemmas will only start becoming more and more real and more serious, right? There's a lot of people and just, kind of a lot of questions being raised with even AI being used for generating music that sounds like Drake, right? And Drake's like, I never created that, right? So I think the concept of ownership and what you own, even in the digital world, will become increasingly important, right? And being able to track ownership of things. And as I say that, suddenly the use case of blockchain comes to my mind, but that's a whole different thing. But I think a lot of that will be, raised when, people do try using these tools, these products, these, AI powered solutions to generate and use assets that aren't theirs and are not owned by them. But I think in the short term, 5, 10, even 15 years, I think we're good and clear to use this in a way where, we're safe and sound, and it doesn't take away, at least from the core, pieces of use cases we're using it for.
Yeah, no worries. And you're in New York, right? So that's the natural ambiance of New York behind you, correct? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Sorry about that.
No problem. All right, cool. So one of the questions I have about this as well is, once again, since we have you on and you're an expert in software, I love talking to people who are especially smart like you and also are deep in the industry. Do you see technology as a whole continuing to advance exponentially? So, from what I've heard of the interviews and the podcasts that I listen to, technology is at a stage where there's either two camps. One camp says that this is going to continue advancing exponentially, and there's nothing that can stop it. And then there's other people who say, no, we're really down to the atomic level of trying to increase processing and memory. And there's not really much space anymore to advance it. What we have, we've about peaked. Maybe there's 5 or 10 more years of advancement, but at that point, we're going to have to switch over to like quantum computing. And I know we're really getting a little bit off the road here, but this is just stuff that I love, man. And I love, meeting minds like you who can really inform the rest of us who are not in the world that you are in. So what camp are you in, and where do you think it's going to go? Is it going to continue expanding exponentially where our phones have as much processing power as a human brain in 10 years? Or are we kind of plateauing?
That's an interesting question. I think when kind of AI as we know it, I mean, it's been around for over 10 years, but this version of AI with large language models started becoming more pervasive 2 years ago. I think everyone got scared, thinking it's going to steal their jobs, it's going to be smarter than us. But if you look around, it hasn't really happened. People are just scared, but it hasn't really happened. And I think, the more you use ChatGPT yourself, you realize it's nothing more than just guessing what the next word is going to be, but it has no idea what it's actually saying. And so I've tried to use it myself for a lot of my own use cases, and it gets me maybe 50 to 70% of the way there, or it helps me kind of, the answer looks real, but it's not actually real, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But I think there's no way that it allows for newer kind of ways of critical thinking, at least not yet. I think the other thing is kind of this being 2 years in, we're seeing obviously NVIDIA kind of take off as, the shovel, right? Kind of during the gold rush. And I think even that right now, the amount of compute and the GPUs and the products that they provide, a lot of these largest companies that are leveraging that, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, are realizing that we have hit to a certain extent, a type of ceiling when it comes to being able to kind of push beyond some of these boundaries and envelopes. But it's interesting that you brought up the whole concept around quantum computing, because Google just came out with some breakthrough on this with the ability to do quantum computing at scales where, I don't know, it's like 1,000 or 10,000, or I can't remember the order of magnitude, 10 or 100,000 times more powerful than before. And you saw crypto prices dip down to like the low 90s, because suddenly, I think it was Chamath that was saying, oh, now with the Google supercomputer, the quantum computing, Bitcoin is going to get cracked in 5 years. And everyone thought it's uncrackable, right? So that said, it was a temporary dip. And I think people realize it's going to take more than just one of these. You need a crazy amount of scale to be able to kind of break through and essentially split an atom in half is the phenomenon that they're trying to do. We're not there yet, and I think we are hitting a wall as to what we can do and what we can get, which I'm actually okay with, admittedly.
Yeah, I'm very okay with that too. Like, I'm loving the fact that ChatGPT can help me write an email, or if I'm having some type of writer's block, I can use it to like get me back on track. I agree with you completely. If I try to use ChatGPT to write something for me, doesn't even come close. But if I'm sitting in front of a computer and I need to write something and I got nothing, I'll say, hey, ChatGPT, give me 10 ideas for this. And 7 of them will be awful, but then 3 of them will give me a good idea, and I won't even still use it. But I'm like, I know what I should do, and I'll go off of that. I'm very happy with artificial intelligence stopping right there. It doesn't need to go any further. All right, cool. I really appreciate you answering and entertaining those questions. I think it's just something that all of us like to think about, maybe when we're driving or something else. So, in short, you don't see this AI stuff replacing video at a high level ever, is your answer. Not even in 1,000 years. Not in our lifetimes, anyway.
I don't know if I said ever, but at least 15, 20 years. I think we're quite a ways away from it, but I would never say never based on just what we've seen in the last 20, 25 years.
Okay. Right? All right. So it'll be a long while at least, and maybe not even then. Okay. So what's the future of AI and real estate? There's other things outside of videography that AI is getting involved in. Do you see AI replacing real estate agents? Do you see AI, if you're looking for a certain type of home, can you submit your information and they're going to suggest listings to you based off of what you prefer, or based off of what you can afford? Where do you see AI getting involved there? Do you think you're going to be producing more stuff in those realms too, or is AutoReel your Magna Carta? Actually, that's not the correct thing. What do they call it? Magnum opus. Excuse me. There we go.
Yeah. No, great question. Right. I think things like personalized recommendations based on your profile and your interest. That's a solved problem. That's just machine learning, at its core. I think things around it completely replacing real estate agents is an interesting one. I think that idea itself is such a red herring. I feel like there's been so many people who have tried to replace real estate agents, and maybe there's only a handful of solutions iBuying, right? So like Open Door and so forth have come out with a potential approach to that. But I think ultimately it's just hard to displace them, because look, at the end of the day, I think you can't blame AI for any legal compliance issues. We need someone who can be held liable and accountable to have ownership of the process. And I think to that end, we're going to need real estate agents around for a while. And I say this as someone who's kind of looked into at least, a few levels deep into this when I was looking at a few different ideas, and this was kind of an obvious one. And then the deeper I dug, I found that's just not going to happen anytime soon due to the legal and compliance implications of it. I think some of the traditional use cases, things like, hey, this, document that I'm signing that's, 100 pages long and I have no idea what I'm signing, AI can certainly summarize it for me and tell me what I'm on the hook for. I'm not going to lie, I've definitely signed a lot of kind of paperwork to, conduct real estate transactions while just skimming through, the high level topics and themes without really reading through every line item, trusting that it's the standard template and my realtor's got my back. So I think with AI, it'll give you a lot more confidence in what I do in my daily life, but I don't think it's going to take away from a lot of those core pieces that hold true to real estate today.
Okay. Yeah. And we see one of the things I have noticed that I learned early in my career as far as real estate agents and not being replaceable is, and this is, I'm sure, something you deal with AutoReal as well, is that the human error is something that no computer can probably rise to meet. Um, you can build a better product, but they're always going to build a better idiot, as they say. And I think real estate agents are always going to be useful purely because I have never seen such worse behavior from a human being than when they're selling a home. Uh, and I, growing up, had a little bit of naivete in regards to what your average adult is capable of. So when I saw certain professions like a real estate agent, I'm like, why do we need a real estate agent to open a door? How come homeowners can't just come together and sell and buy with each other? And the reason is, holy crap, they act like complete children and they take things very personally. There's no way they can also evaluate a home at a fair price and also take an offer without, like I said, getting extremely angry about it. I personally believe if real estate agents were removed out of the transaction, homicide rates in the United States would spike to all times high, purely purely from people being so furious with each other in real estate transactions. Um, I cannot believe some of the conversations I've overheard or arguments I've heard where homeowners just lose it uh, because they ask, "Hey, so what did the offer come in at?" And it came like $5,000 lower than asking, and they just lose their minds. And real estate agents are the people who have to deal with that. And bless their hearts, I don't think there's anything we can build to replace it. And it's one of the reasons why I'll never be a real estate agent. Just saying it. I much prefer just showing up to take the photos after everyone else has done the cleaning. Usually, anyway. All right. Well, that's really good, man. Is there anything else you want to talk about? We've, I think, had a great podcast here. We've learned a lot. We've explored some fun ideas, some scary ideas. Is there anything else? If you guys haven't done so already, is it AutoReelApp.com? And that's real, REEL app, not REAL. Is there anything else that any Instagram pages or social media pages you'd like them to check out?
Nope, the landing page is good. Obviously, we are on Instagram. We wouldn't, be creating this if we weren't big on Instagram. So
Right.
we are on Instagram, we are on LinkedIn, but our landing page is the short, simple, sweet way to see what we're about, what we can do, and give it a spin yourself.
Okay, cool. All right, man. Well, I had a really fun conversation. If you guys have any questions, or if you guys have someone you'd like me to interview, feel free to comment them down below. I do answer to all the comments that I get, especially since we're just getting started here with Real Estate Photography Unlocked. And if you'd like to follow me, feel free to look up Jonathan Corbett online. And of course, you can always check out Real Estate Media Hero, which is the brand new photographer-owned scheduling software for all of our needs. And you can also check out Real Estate Photography Masterclass.com if you guys want to learn how to do real estate a little bit better in photography. All right. Well, thank you very much, Alok. And I really appreciate you coming out and doing this today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
All right. Bye-bye.